All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. I have you guys covered here with this 4-game Thursday slate. We got Emma saying DeAndre Jordan messed me up last night. Yeah, he got me in a couple of bills as well. Kind of what about you as well? I mean, last night was kind of a weird night.
Yeah, is it just me or I just had the music still on for some reason.
Oh, okay.
No, but yeah, man. I mean, that's all the more reason to be in the Discord. Honestly, there was myself and a few others posted like, "Get off Jordan now," because as soon as he wasn't starting, we knew that'd be an issue. And we did mention on the stream that against Chet, there was a chance they could go small. Funny enough, they did. I had Jordan almost on my lineups, but I had enough ability to pivot off. I ended up on Sengun, which didn't really work out. But yeah, I mean. Weird night last night for sure, and I think for a 4-gamer tonight's going to be pretty weird as well.
Honestly, I'm pretty thankful that the Milwaukee-Portland game wasn't on there because I would have had a lot of Lillard, and that would have really crushed my night because he didn't do as much as I would have thought he would have done.
No, that was a weird game. I mean, the Doc experiment hasn't gone great. I don't know how you're inbounding to Giannis with no time left down to 3 or.
I actually liked his reasoning for it. Did you hear it?
No, I didn't.
They knew that they were going to foul, so they're like, Giannis, make the first free throw and then miss the second. He gives us the best opportunity of someone to get that rebound. So it kind of makes sense.
But what are the odds of that? And he also has to make the free throw versus just passing out to someone who could shoot a 3. But whatever.
Yeah.
On to the next. I mean, they're still up there in the standings. You guys got some time.
I'm not worried. Yeah. Looking at this slate, though, we have the Lakers for news. LeBron and Anthony Davis are both going to be out tonight. So we saw on the previous slate where Anthony Davis was out, we were trying to figure out which bigs to be on, whether it's Vanderbilt, Hachimura, Wood, Jackson Hayes. It kind of turned out to be on all of them. What are you doing tonight now with that?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get the starting lineup since it's the first game on the slate, which is good news. I'm guessing we see Hayes get the start again. Could they go to Wood here instead? It's possible. But whoever starts, I think, is going to be my preferred center. It looks like Wood's drawing more of the ownership.
Did you see his tweet?
The LOL after Hayes got the start? Yeah. I mean, he did all right off the bench, but I don't know. I LOL'd a little bit when I saw that lineup too, but I don't know. Hayes is athletic. I mean, he's good on offense. He's just kind of goofy guy. But yeah, I mean, the issue tonight with this game is that it's a 14-point spread in Boston. The Celtics are pretty healthy. So yeah, I mean, if it gets out of hand, are we going to see guys like Skylar Mays or Max Christie get extra run? I don't know. I think you just kind of go with the starters for the most part. I'm playing a handful of lineups. I may avoid them in one just to see what happens, but I think if you're only playing a lineup or two, it's going to be tough to get away from these guys. I mean, there's also rumors they're showcasing Russell at this point. I mean, very firmly on the trade block. If you're trading him to an Eastern contender, what better opportunity than here against the Celtics? Let him have 40% usage and put up a decent number, and maybe you could get something better for him. I don't know. This is all speculation, but on a 4-game slate, I think we are allowed to speculate a little bit.
It's like you really want to get to Russell, but like the blowout risk is right there, and that's definitely nervous. And like Reeves as well, like if the game blows out too fast, like they're both too cheap, but they're both players that could end up with the snowflake tonight.
Yeah, and I mean Russell, same situation last time, except LeBron was in. He was like 50% on it terribly. So yeah, I mean that range or that outcome certainly within his range. But yeah, I mean I think they're chalk for a reason. It's very obvious they're going to see increased usage. Reeves especially priced reasonably on both sides. I think they're both going to get their shots up here. Boston good defensively, but they do play quick. They do play in transition. So as long as the game's close, there's going to be a lot of points to go around. But yeah, I think we need that starting lineup. The good news is we'll definitely have it.
And then looking at kind of the other big injuries, well, we got 2 other big spots, but the first one let's just talk about is going to be New York as well. So Julius Randle's still out, Mitchell Robinson still out, OG still a game time decision. I don't like that. We do have him projected to get 36 minutes. I kind of think if OG sits, it's just lather, rinse, repeat. Down to DiVincenzo, go with a little bit of Quentin Grimes, go with Josh Hart, and then maybe Jalen Brunson. What are you kind of doing with that game?
Well, don't go with Quentin Grimes because he was just ruled out. But other than that, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if OG's in, I'm guessing he's going to be a little bit under-owned. DiVincenzo's showing up as chalk right now. But if OG's in, I think that is going to cut into DiVincenzo's upside just a little bit. He's been ridiculous. 9 for 15 from three his last game. Game before that, 5 for 15. I mean, he is taking the shots, and it's not like OG's a super high usage player, so I can see still getting to him. But on a slate where it's going to be really tough to get different if he's pushing 40% with OG in, that might be a place where I try to do it. But I mean, there's no denying the upside he has here, even with OG back. Brunson looks great. Hart looks good. Hartenstein should continue to see more minutes, kind of working his way back from injury. So, yeah, I mean, I love the Knicks here, and the Pacers are back to playing quick now that Halliburton's there, albeit on limited minutes. But this is one of the higher total games on the board, so we definitely should be getting to some Knicks tonight.
Is it okay? So, like, my initial thought, if OG's out, could it be a Evan Fournier night? And I preface that with I think it was.
You did get one, I remember.
I think it was on the 30th against the Pacers. So, like, I'm pretty sure I'm 1 for 1 on this. So, tough to say for sure. But, like, it feels like it would be the spot for him tonight. Like, if OG was also out with Quentin Grimes still out. Is that a spot where maybe we need the projection to get there, or like 10 minutes? Or, like, who would benefit with both those players out? Because I'm looking at it. I don't really want to trust McBride, and he's already proven that he's not the best. I mean, not terrible, though, basically min price. Would you get to either of those two?
I mean, I actually like McBride as far as talent goes. I don't know that he gets the opportunity. I'm wondering, though, was that Fournier game before the trade with the Raptors? Because now they have Malachi Flynn back there, who kind of plays a similar role.
Right.
Maybe he gets in ahead of him. But at the same time, I mean, whenever they're thin, they do seem to let him run around and take shots.
I think that was when the trade was made. That's why.
Like during it? Oh, okay. So players were moving and traveling. Okay, so that's interesting. Because, now they have Flynn. I think McBride's interesting, but he doesn't really fill that role. He's the backup point guard here behind Brunson, who's still playing a ton of minutes. Arcidiacono's with the team right now. I have no interest in him. It's a risk, but on a 4-game slate, sometimes it takes a risk like that to climb a leaderboard.
Yeah.
Do we even have him for any minutes right now? No, not yet.
Let's see. When did the Quentin Grimes news hit? Did that hit like right before lock or right before we started?
Live. Yeah, okay. I don't know that we even have that in the model yet. It's going to take a few minutes, I think. But I mean, if he's showing up at all, I think he's worth mixing in. It's just there is a lot of other value on this slate, and the other thing you're going to discover is there's not a lot to pay all the way up for. So usually we have these guys over 10K in the 12K range that we want. Tonight, I mean. Yeah, it's like Halliburton's on limited minutes. Brunson's under 10K. Tatum's up there, but we don't have any of those like super pricey studs to get up to. So I don't know that it's necessary. But on a 4-game slate, large field tournament, those are the types of plays that can really help you climb the leaderboard if they do work out, when they do work out.
And then talking about plays that have been working out, Memphis with their values. So Scottie Pippen Jr. a little bit, Vince Williams a little bit. They are so banged up. And I feel like us, Occupy Fantasy, as like a unit, has been very good at nailing Memphis somehow. Who are you looking at tonight? Is it kind of those same players again?
Yeah, and it's tricky because this is one of the lower total games. I think it's 20 points lower than any other game on the slate. But I mean, Pippen's still sub 5K on both sides. As long as he's starting, he's good guard value. I always like Vince Williams, somewhat scoring dependent. But we've seen with increased usage, he's able to put up numbers. And then, Jackson's been good if you can get to him. Not a great matchup, but Mobley's out for Cleveland again. Allen's a good defender, but that does make this matchup a bit softer. And then, I guess if Tillman gets the start, he's fine. Like, these are all good plays, so I'll take a look at ownership. And, I mean, I'm guessing they're going to come in a lot lower than the Lakers. Still getting some love, but, I mean, this is probably a good spot to get different. Like, 6% Pippen on DK. If he starts at 4,700, that's shocking to me. I think he should be much higher.
And like, if he starts, his minutes would have to go up to at least like 10 more, I would say, like 33. Like, that could be the biggest thing. But maybe people are just waiting on John Contra news. Like, if he sits, I think that just makes Scottie Pippen like just goes from maybe being a little bit risky of a play to like a safe play. So like, that is news that I'm definitely monitoring, because then I want to be on Vince Williams much more, and I want to be on Scottie Pippen a little bit more as well.
Yep. And Aldama is questionable. Conchar is questionable. So we do have to keep an eye on these guys. But I mean, everyone's so cheap that I think you can kind of mix them in and feel okay about it. It's just going to be a question of if we're getting to guys like Roddy maybe as a secondary play. And not to shift subjects too much, but OG did just get ruled out for the Knicks. So
let's jump back into that.
Probably something we want to talk through.
Yeah, let's jump back into that. So we kind of just mentioned it. We got to see, and we see the comment here. We got to see what the data updates to, and I'll do a refresh here. It already updated with the Quentin Grimes news. It shifted all the minutes to the top 3, but it typically does that. But this is one of those spots where it might actually be true. Like we got Jalen for like 39 minutes, Hart for 39 minutes, Dante DiVincenzo for 39 minutes. Like that could actually just be what happens as well.
Yeah, Tibbs is the king of running his guys into the ground. They're all going to play as close to 40 minutes as they can with this rotation thing. Yeah. He's not trying to give these guys at the end of the bench much a run. I do think this helps your Fournier call. Like as a dart, as a large field, risky play, he has some upside. I'll say the same about Malachi Flynn. Don't really love either. But really what this does, Hart, DiVincenzo, our core plays now pretty much everywhere. Mm-hmm. Gotta like Brunson if you can get to him. Hartenstein seeing more and more minutes. I don't mind him here either as well. But all the Knicks starters, like you said, that's where the minutes are going to get condensed. This is Thibodeau. We know what he does. He plays his guys more minutes when guys are out. He's not just trying to pull in a bunch of guys off the bench.
Who starts? Is it like, because obviously Indy has Siakam there now and Turner there. They're kind of big. Does maybe Jericho Sims get a spot start there as well? Or is it Precious getting the start there? Like, that's what I'm wondering, because like if one of those two start as well, like maybe we can look at them. Like maybe Precious gets 33 minutes tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he played him 40 2 nights ago, so we know that he give Precious the minutes. And I honestly do think it's going to be Precious next to Hartenstein. Mm-hmm. They're probably going to play big. Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart, Precious, Isaiah. If Sims gets the spot start for Isaiah, that'd be a little bit surprising, but it's another big body who's going to get run here. He is someone that Thibs trust more than a lot of these guards that are on the bench. So if they do play mostly big tonight, he could get mixed in, but I don't think he starts. I think it's going to be Precious at the 4, Isaiah at the 5, if I had to guess.
I think that's fair. And like maybe Josh Hart at the 4, and we see Fournier come in there. Maybe
that'd be crazy.
It could he does that in these spots like once. He's done it once, I guess.
Well, I mean that's more than never, and I do think Flynn can shoot and get hot. I mentioned I like McBride. I just don't know that the guys out are the ones that are really benefiting him. Mm-hmm. But we've seen some ceiling games out of him. He had 2 big games against Memphis and Orlando earlier in the month where he went over 30 fantasy points. I think Brunson was out for those, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, at least we know he has an offensive bag.
I will say he's probably the safest of those values.
Those like dirt, off the bench values. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again, like we might not have to get there because there's no true studs that we're trying to pay up for, but it is something where I think it could be worthwhile. But let's pivot on into the Philly spot here until that we get that data update. So Philly extremely banged up. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about playing Embiid or not to play Embiid in the late night game. But with that being said, it does seem like we could be getting Maxey back tonight. And then also Nick Batum could potentially be back tonight. I do think that's noteworthy, both of them being back, because that means Kelly Oubre not as appealing. Tobias Harris might be a little bit priced up. Paul Reed is priced up. He's risk reward there. What are you doing here with Philly tonight?
Yeah, I mean, if Maxey's in, I do like him. It's just another situation where it's going to be tough to build, like not knowing what we have in that late game. Did he go through shoot around? Do you know? I was looking for it. I didn't see it.
Let me just check right now.
Well, while you do that, I'll keep talking through them. But yeah, I mean, Paul Reed on both sides looks pretty good. Drawing more ownership on FanDuel than I thought he might. 50% owned, where you only have the one center spot. I do like him, but he is priced up. It's not like we're getting him near min. He's in the 6K range, and certainly he's capable of a ceiling. But at that price, I don't know that he's like this lock core play that the field necessarily thinks he is.
Yeah.
And I love Harris here, kind of regardless of who's in. Oubre looks good, but if Maxey and Batum are both back, I think he's someone who could see a down tick in usage. But yeah, another situation we kind of have to keep it on the news. If Maxey's out, we go back to Pat Beverly. If Maxey's in, I probably wouldn't go to Pat Beverly. But Harris and Oubre, I think, are safe either way. Reed looks good, but probably a little bit over-owned on FanDuel as things stand.
Yeah, I mean, Reed's like the ultimate like GPP play pretty much every time that Embiid's out, because you never know what you're going to get from him. This is like a good example against Denver. I don't know if Embiid was out. Yeah, he was. That's right. 42 minutes, 54 for fantasy points. And then I think there was another night where earlier on the season where he was mega chalk and just had like 12 points. And so I don't like Like 23% on DraftKings seems to be a little bit too low, but to your point, 50% on FanDuel seems to be too high as well.
Right, exactly. And as I say that, I'd love for you to pull up this comment from Israel here, who's
Yeah.
kind of ribbing us, saying we never don't like any plays. I've just said at 50% reads over own. Like, I'm not going to try to get to him that much if I can help it. And yeah, I mean, it's funny. We talk through all these situations because really what it comes down to more than anything is ownership. Like, NBA is the most projectable sport. We know how many minutes most of these guys are going to play. We know their fantasy point per minutes rate more than any other sport is projectable. So there's reasons to like plays when they're mispriced, but that's why ownership is everything. And that's where we're going to be taking stands. It's not that I don't think Paul Reed could be good tonight. It's just I don't think he's as good as the field think maybe he could be. So for that comment, I did smile when I saw it.
That is funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that we love every play. It's just you have to kind of scale them against each other.
Yes. I think we've actually been like that. I think that's what we've been best at this season thus far is like saying when someone's a little bit over-owned or a little bit under-owned, like that's really been my biggest difference maker. I think that's probably the reason why all of us have taken down a GPP this year is like those slight little edges in ownership have been pretty huge. But yeah, I mean, lately the chalk, the past 5 days has been good chalk. And so, yeah, we have liked those plays because they've been good and they've worked out. So it's the nature of the beast. It depends. It's very much slate dependent. So if it seems like we're liking certain plays a little bit more today, that's why. Lately, that's why, because the chalk's been good chalk lately.
Yeah, the other thing is today's a 4-game slate. Yes, like have to like more than usual. Like we have to talk about some of these guys in the middle of the bench. On an 11-gamer, they wouldn't even get mentioned. So again, it's a 4-game slate here. We only have so many options. If you're trying to get different, you got to like more than maybe other people do.
So let's see here. So I'm trying to get back into the comments, seeing if we missed anything here. Highest rated players in the model from Lando. I know that's typically a Jose question as well. So we'll show that here with OF Index. Obviously a 4-game slate. We can take more questions. So if you guys have those, make sure to get those in. Right now it is Tatum, Mitchell, Brunson, Russell. Very cheap price tag. And then you go a little bit lower. Josh Hart is someone that's standing out as well. Let's see here. Sexton tonight from Emma. And then we also have one about FanDuel. Yeah, we always talk about FanDuel when we go position by position. We'll get into that in a second. Just going through your guys' questions right now. But yeah, so Sexton just as a play, I like him tonight. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, 4-game slate again. We're going to have to like some of these guys that might be a bit iffy on a big slate. Sexton has shown a very high ceiling, which makes him a good Marshfield tournament play. We're not always going to get that outcome out of him, but that's what's going to keep his ownership reasonable. So yeah, around 20% on both sides. I think he's a good play. Definitely better on DK than he is on FanDuel. But you do get both guard eligibilities, which makes it a little easier to build with him. If you're waiting on that Maxey news, I mean, you could play a little bit more this game. Yeah. And having someone like Sexton in maybe another spot that you could upgrade allows you to maybe upgrade him to Maxey or something like that. So if you're building, having that game is 2 hours later than the one before it. Sexton's even more valuable for that reason too.
And I will just say it, and I don't know if you agree with this, but he feels like a great GPP play tonight, terrible cash play, because we can't really, out of all the guards for the slate today, he feels like the one that's the most risky, like risk reward. Let's see here. Do you like a Laker player tonight? We kind of mentioned this. Like all the bigs are in play. Do you have one that you like more than the others, just in general for the Lakers?
I think it's going to be Reeves. I mean, I do like Russell, but Reeves has been consistent. He's cheaper than D'Lo. I think they're both going to see a ton of shots here. The other thing is at times, even when they blow out, we do see Reeves play into the fourth quarter. I know this was taking place earlier in the season when he was more so coming off the bench. I'd have to dig a little bit deeper to confirm this, but I feel better about him getting run into the fourth if this game gets out of hand than I do about Russell. And yeah, I mean, he's cheaper, similar upside, so he's my favorite, but he's super popular. Yeah. I like Reeves. I like Russell, whoever starts at center. And then Rui, I'm guessing he's going to be super popular today. Usually he gets a little, he's 60% on both sides. Yeah. I love Rui here. He's another guy who could probably play into the fourth regardless of how this game plays out. So, yeah, Reeves and Rui, my favorites. Also like Russell. Whoever starts at center, whether it's Hayes or Wood's, going to look good. Prince is probably the one starter I'm not excited about. He does have upside. He is dirt cheap, but he's very dependent on making his threes, which could or could not happen here against a pretty good defensive team. So I mean, the ownership's going to follow that, so it's not really a hot take. But yeah, definitely like the Lakers here. And again, it's because AD and LeBron are out. All these guys are going to see a major uptick in usage for sure.
And then that's actually, I kind of want to make this point as I pull up this next question, asking about stacking. I actually think that might be my approach to go with a little bit tonight. Like this Lakers-Boston game, obviously it's a game that could be a blowout, 15.5-point spread. It's kind of expected that it could be. But at the same time, like, trying to figure out, like, is Russell gonna like have a bad night, or when that's gonna occur? Like, will it be Reeves and Russell maybe having a bad night? I don't really want to mess with that too much. Like, I want to bet on this game staying close. I'm going to be on Russell, Reeves, whoever the other starters are for bigs. I'll be on those two as well, and then run it back with Boston. So like I might do that, but like talking about the question here, it's like any thoughts on doing a Knicks stack? And so again, typically we don't recommend stacks, but what are your kind of thoughts on running out stacks tonight, and then specifically with New York?
Yeah, I mean, on the smaller the slate, the more I like stacking. On bigger slates, I really don't ever really look to do it. But on a night like tonight, say 2 of the 3 games blow out, one's low scoring, and you're on the game that goes off.
Yeah.
You're
OT
in a
too,
great
maybe.
spot. And yeah, most people aren't building that way. So yeah, I like the Knicks. I mean, again, they're so thin. Like Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart. I'd be fine playing all 3 of them in one lineup, and then you could play Hartenstein or Precious and feel fine about it.
Yeah.
If you want to take a shot on 48 with some of the chalkier guys, I don't think that's crazy. So yeah, load up on Knicks, but it is tough to run it back, I will say, with Indiana, because Halliburton's on a minutes limit, right?
Yeah.
Hield's very inconsistent. Mathurin, I love the player, but Carlisle gives him inconsistent minutes. So it's like, who do you want to run it back with? I think it would be Siakam, who's kind of pricey, but we've seen that he's going to have a nice role there. They play in transition with Halliburton, still going to see a high usage rate. But yeah, other than that, I mean, the Pacers all feel a little bit iffy. So load up on Knicks and maybe run it back with Siakam. I think that's going to be a pretty strong build.
If Jalen Smith is out, I know we already used the Obi Toppin revenge game narrative once this year.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
Did
he
he
could
go
be a good
off?
play. He did. I'm pretty confident. That might have been like one of my better days. I don't know if that was a GPP winning one, but maybe it was. I don't remember
I
specifically,
kind of
but
remember that game, but yeah.
he's been getting minutes recently and maybe gets a slight uptick. We know he's like a GPP upside type play. Yeah, in that game, he was 4.3, 29, pretty good results. They're not anything crazy, only 20 minutes in that game. But again, if Smith is out, maybe he does get a little bit more run tonight.
Yeah, if Smith's out, I'd look to him a little bit more. But the thing is, yeah, the trade they made brings in Siakam,
Yeah.
which has definitely been cutting into the minutes for the other power forwards. It's not crazy, and definitely preferred if Smith's out. He is cheap enough. But I think adding Siakam to this rotation, that came before they had Siakam, right? So yeah, I think it's a little bit riskier, but I'm sure he wants to go off in the Garden here.
Yeah. So we got a lot of questions and comments about the Lakers game. Do we think it'll be high scoring? I think that really just depends on Russell, like whether or not he's getting locked down by like Drew Holiday, or if he's like just cold shooting the basketball.
Yeah, I mean the Lakers game's definitely gonna have a high total. I mean it has not. We're looking at the totals. Vegas knows better than anyone. We're all in the business of predicting the future, which is never exact science. But 239 total, tied with the late game for the highest total. So relative to the slate, yes, the answer is yes. The one game that you'd say would be low scoring is the Cavs and Grizzlies. 2 teams that play slow. The Cavs with an elite defense. So yes, relative to the slate, absolutely probably gets 230 to 240 something points. I mean, on a bigger slate, if we had a bunch of 250s, then the answer would be different. But you really just want to keep that question and answer into the confines of the slate, and the answer is definitely yes.
And then we did get some Lakers news in terms of their confirmed starting lineup. So it's going to be Russell, Reeves, no shock there, Prince, no shock there, and then Vanderbilt, and then Hayes. So no Christian Wood starting tonight, no Hachi starting tonight. But they're still good. They're still GPP plays.
Yeah, definitely mix them in. I was hoping Rui would start. I'm a little bit surprised they're going Vandy over him. But yeah, Vanderbilt looks really good now, too. And I mean, he's not really known as an offensive player. He's been taking more shots lately, though. I don't know why or what's going on there. But I mean, he's been putting up better fantasy scores. So I don't mind him. I still prefer Rui over Vandy, even though he's coming off the bench, I will say. I'm guessing the ownership flattens a bit on Rui, but not all that much. And yeah, Hayes looks great. He should play in a blowout as well. So he checks all the boxes for me. I prefer him over Paul Reed, even though he's power forward eligibility on FanDuel right now. So
Yeah.
Take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I don't mind the idea of running out two Lakers bigs. I'm kind of fine with that because they should still somewhat get run in a blowout. Getting into some more questions here. So Vince Williams or Colin Sexton tonight? Can I default to waiting on John Contra news?
Yeah, that's fair.
For real though, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Williams probably is the higher floor. Sexton probably is the higher ceiling. But I agree. I think just let that hang on the Contra news. If Contra's out, go Williams. If he's in, go Sexton.
Yeah, and I just want to see what the model says here as well. But I think again that'll probably change with the Contra news. Sexton is
Pretty
at
close.
13.5.
Well, Sexton's 8.9 in OF index. I think Williams
Oh yeah,
is
sorry.
8.2. Yeah. But with Contra out, I think Williams would probably get even closer to Sexton there. So.
Yeah, that's basically the same. So fair, yeah. Let's see here. Andrew Nembhard tonight. I don't think so, right?
Probably not. Halliburton's out. Yes, he's limited, but McConnell's healthy again too. Who's going to take a few of those minutes? And yeah, he's still kind of priced up a little higher than he should be. The algorithm raised his price because Halliburton's out for like a month, and now I mean he's still putting up decent scores, but there's not much meat on the bone. I probably wouldn't use him here, honestly.
Yeah. And then, so we'll get into the Knicks here in a second. Here, we got a couple of McBride or Fournier questions here, so we'll touch on both of those. But this is a funny comment from James. Then we'll just get into like a quick position by position breakdown. What happened with DeAndre Jordan? He didn't start, so.
Yeah, James. So this is why we preach being in the Discord, keeping an eye on the news and the model. But yeah, he didn't start. And we mentioned on the show, it was a quick mention, but I was like, I mean, there's a chance they go small here against Chet. He's not the biggest center. And then I mentioned Nashi maybe getting the start. It turned out to be Watson. They put Gordon in at the 5. But yeah, it's just they didn't have to play big. And honestly, DeAndre Jordan, I'm pretty biased. I think he's like well beyond his years. I mean, he can still put up a fantasy score, but he's not helping basketball teams win games in 2024. So it was surprising, but not the most shocking thing. But again, that's all the more reason to just keep an eye on the news. If you're playing players in late games, it's a requirement in NBA. And if you're in the Discord, we're always posting updates as that news comes through. The model's updating in real time as well. So yeah, it was a bit of a shocker, but I did see he was like still 30% owned on both sites.
Yeah.
So if you didn't pivot off him, you were part of that 30%.
I was stuck in. I had ran out, I think, like 6 or 7 total builds. I was stuck on him in 2 builds. Like I couldn't do anything. So it was more like, whatever. This is not a good play anymore. But like, let's just stick with it because there's nothing better.
Yeah,
so
he couldn't come off the bench. Like they didn't even use him at all. But that was the fear. Once he came off the bench, it was like maybe they don't need to go big at all here because I don't know. OKC's backup center too. Brunson Earl or Zell. I don't even know who they have anymore. Jalen Williams with a Y, L-I.
Yep.
Not the biggest team. OKC.
But here, jumping into point guards or just the guards in general, just kind of recapping, we kind of touched on all these plays. Again, we don't really have any pay-up plays. Jalen Brunson is the best pick in the model right now in terms of like pay-ups, in terms of value. You got Dante DiVincenzo popping up in there, Breeze popping up in there. To me, this is a weird slate because I could talk myself into basically so many different lineup paths, and that's why I think I want to stack. But like, what are your starting points for the guards tonight?
I mean, it is the Lakers guys that I think make the most sense. But yeah, I'm like trying to think if there's anything low owned I even like. I guess Mitchell, honestly. I mean, Garland's back, which we thought would cut into him more.
Yeah.
But he's still sub 20% on a 4-game slate. Both games with Garland back, he's still put up over 50 fantasy points. On a night like tonight where we have a ton of value, raw points are going to matter for your payups. And if you don't want to deal with the Maxey news later, I just get the more Mitchell, honestly. So I like Mitchell at his ownership, but I mean, the chalk is chalk for a reason. Brunson looks great. Knicks are so thin. He's going to lead that team in usage. Paced up as well. All the Knicks, all the Lakers. Yeah, but I think the chalk is chalk for a reason. Oh, Pippen's the other one, too, honestly.
He's too low owned.
Yeah, regardless of whether Williams is in or out, he's too low owned on DK. I love the price on both sites. Again, not a great matchup against Cleveland, but at the same time, it's a 4-game slate. Like, he gets a few extra minutes here. He's going to more than make up for the low total. And he's been really good when he is getting runs. So as long as he's in the starting lineup, Pippen's another guard I want to mix in. And yeah, you don't want to play only chalk.
No.
The other thing too, I mean, if you did want to get heavy on that Boston Lakers game, everyone's playing the Lakers. I don't think many people are playing Celtics though.
Yeah.
So you could go to Drew or White. It's more of a large field tournament type thing, though. If you're playing a smaller field, single entry, not really a thing I'd be trying to do. Or if you think maybe the game does blow out, and this is only something I'd bring up on a 4-game slate. Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench has shown that he's going to be the guy to take all the usage of these Celtic blowouts most of the time. So he's someone you can maybe mix in, again, as a large field only play. If you're only playing one lineup or you're in a small field, these aren't really things you want to have to think about. Just play lower chalk, try to get different in a couple spots. But if you are a 150 max, you're playing these larger field tournaments, Pritchard is someone I'd probably get a little bit of. You don't have to go crazy. But yeah, if you're playing for that game to blow out, he's someone I could see going off.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And is Luke Cornett confirmed out in that game yet? He is.
Yep.
Horford is back. I was going to say any love for, and I always kind of butcher his name.
Namus Keita?
Yeah. Any love for him in a blowout or no?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a last piece in. I don't hate it, but like
we don't need to get there tonight.
Yeah, and we always talk about too is if you're locking in value from the early games, it kind of makes it tough to maneuver later. Like if you're locking in studs from the early games, you're competing with the studs from the late games, but the value can always get better throughout the night.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think tonight it's necessary. If Horford was out and Cornett was out, I'd say yes. But yeah, I mean, he's not a guy who's going to see a ton of run either way.
So we did just get some news via the chat. And I don't know if this is confirmed or Emma just saying it, but Patrick Beverley is out. And then Benedict Mathurin is also out as well. Let's see what I hate about tonight's slate is like we don't need the value. Like this was I mean, we didn't really need the value yesterday either, but like this little plays like this here and not there being out, like this is great on bigger slates where you can maybe gain an edge, where today it's like we have so much soft pricing already. I don't know if that changes too much. Like, does it for you? Like, does Aaron Naismith become a better play or anything like that with Mathurin out, or does maybe Kelly Oubre becomes a kind of lock to get 30 minutes tonight?
Beverly's not out.
Okay.
So that one's false. The Mathurin one's true, though. He's going to be out. And yeah, I mean, that probably secures a few extra minutes for Hield, who's always kind of boomer bust, but he is cheap. So maybe you could get to somebody. Naismith had a huge game against the Celtics in his revenge spot, but he's been awesome in general. And I didn't mention it before, but I'm kind of glad that Mathurin was ruled out because now I am thinking about him. And yeah, I mean, as a run back for all the Knicks we're playing, I mentioned how it's hard to really find Pacers that we love with Halliburton on limited minutes. Naismith's probably the next guy in line for me after Siakam, so I do like that call. We kind of poo-pooed the idea of Nembhard a few minutes ago. This should actually boost his upside slightly, so I don't mind maybe mixing him in. But again, these are large field plays. The one I would probably get to more here is Naismith, and I do think the field's probably going to pick up more Buddy Hield ownership now with this news as well.
And this just furthers the point I just made is that there's so many like low priced plays that are seemingly good plays on a 4-game slate. It's kind of crazy. But at the same time, like, could Halliburton maybe get a little bit more run tonight? And then maybe someone like Nembhard, who was a good play last slate because he still got that run, maybe he gets a little bit more run tonight. I doubt it, but like,
yeah, I think the issue is like I gotta find the coach speak from Carlisle, but they said they wanted to like ease him back. I think those were the exact words, and what that means, I don't know. But he only played 22 minutes last game. They were in a very competitive game with Boston, and he just didn't play the fourth quarter because it was a very firm minutes cap. So to me, that's scaring me off entirely, especially at his price. I don't think I could get there. So yeah, I do want to say it helps Nembhard, but McConnell's been out a couple games too, so that might kind of balance itself out. But yeah, I wouldn't play Halliburton at that price. Could he get there in limited minutes? Sure. Not a risk I want to take at his price, though. And then, yeah, I'm definitely going to get Naismith, Siakam, a little bit of Hield. But again, I'm only playing a handful of lineups tonight. This is a tricky slate.
Yeah. So we got Aldama and Concher on track to play, so it does make the Memphis plays a little bit less desirable. I like this question. So who would be the cheapest player you would play? I think the stream probably knows my answer for that right now. I mean, I'm not going crazy with it, but like I'll have a piece of Fournier tonight and a couple of builds, and he is in the model. Oh boy, now I have to play him. All right, so project to get 13 minutes. McBride now project to get 20 minutes. So, and then like we thought, everyone else is still projected to get very heavy minutes for New York.
Yeah, man. I think now those Knicks guys probably are the answer to that question.
Yeah.
And then I'll throw Max Christie's name in that ring as well. Like
Mhm.
if this game were to get out of hand, maybe he gets some extra run. For Philly, if Maxey and um, Batum are out, I think Jaden Springer could get some run. He's dirt cheap on DK.
Mhm.
We saw KJ Martin play a few extra minutes. So yeah, tonight again because it's a 4 game slate, we can
Yeah.
get weird and play some of these cheaper guys. I don't know that there's an exact number. I'm trying to look on FanDuel. Like Pippen's 47, definitely gonna have some of him. Dean Wade, I don't love. McBride's 4,200 on FanDuel. I'll probably have
Yeah.
some of him. Um, but yeah, I mean, like you can make an argument. Like DK, there's cheap guys on
Yeah.
FanDuel. There's nothing that cheap. Like if Daniel Houseford's starting in, maybe he's someone. Christie's 3,900. Fournier is going to be the cheapest. Um, but yeah, I guess if you're playing Fournier, and again, this is a large field type
Yeah.
play.
Yes.
Unless he starts, then he's going to be chalk. Then yeah, you could go all the way down tonight.
And so for me, just to make it clear, really with all these values tonight, like that's my way of getting different. So like Fournier, like if I'm playing a chalky build, which I most likely will, he would be a play that I toss in there to get a little bit different. So like for this question, like McBride, Fournier, or Pritchard straight up, that really just depends on the build that I'm doing. Like I mentioned, I might stack that Boston Lakers game. Like if I'm not doing that, then Pritchard becomes a decent play because I'm betting on that game to blow out. McBride probably feels the safest. Fournier, I like as a low owned like pivot from chalk to get a little bit unique.
Yeah, I think McBride is the safest from that group. So
Yeah.
straight up, I'd say McBride just because I think he gets the minutes regardless. But um, yeah, I totally like what you said. Like if you're playing a lot of Lakers that are going to be involved if that game blows out, maybe run it back with Pritchard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think McBride's the safest if you're trying to keep it safe.
So let's jump into the forwards here. We'll try to get back into questions here in a second, but want to do the normal video here. But yeah, if you guys have those questions, make sure to get those in, and maybe we can just jump into centers right away and then get into the questions. So for the forwards, it does seem to be more straightforward. I will say Precious seems very low owned on the slate right now for FanDuel and DraftKings, but specifically FanDuel, where he's power forward center eligible. Is he someone you're looking at to maybe get unique there now that we got that New York news with OG out?
Yeah, assuming he starts, yes. And he's been disappointing at times, even with the extra minutes. He's up to 6K almost on both sites. So if he was cheaper, I'd be more excited about it.
Yeah.
But he's a play. I mean, he's in play. It's a 4 game slate. It's kind of limited. Wouldn't call him a core player or anything like that. He's my least favorite of the Knicks starters, but I do like all the Knicks starters. So he's okay. I'm not excited to get there, though. But the ownership makes him tempting.
I would agree with what you said there. Anything for Porzingis tonight? He definitely gets a much better matchup with both LeBron and AD out. Obviously, we're worried about the game blowing out, but it's the first half. He's been a first half stud, so like we don't have to worry about the second half then with him.
Right. I mean, he's been getting most of his points in the first half. If you guys are in a legal state and you could bet Porzingis first half points, that's been money lately. Honestly, this is a great spot for it too because if the game blows out, you're not really worried about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't mind him. And again, this is a situation I'd maybe run back a heavy Lakers lineup, something like that. I am concerned about the blowout here. But yeah, I mean, he's been excellent. It's just always the same issue with Boston. It's like you know one or two of these guys are going to push 50 fantasy points in a given night. Which one of the 4 or 5 is it going to be? I mean, lately Porzingis has 20 points in the first quarter every game, and then slowly fizzles away, and then Tatum kind of takes over. But like night to night, it's going to vary, especially if this game gets out of hand. So I don't mind him, but again, not a priority at all. I think there's other payups that we're going to want to get to ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it does seem pretty straightforward for the bigs. Like Hachi's pulling in as chalk, even Chinzo chalk, Harris chalk, Josh Hart not as chalky, but I feel like those are the 4 kind of clear cut plays. And then we also could go Vanderbilt a little bit. We'll get into centers and whatnot in a second here, but like Hayes and Wood, we can get to those guys. Like, do you feel the need to really get different here in terms of forwards at all?
I don't know. I do want to get to some Harris.
Like Tatum does feel like a pay up. Like if we had a pay up for someone,
Yeah, like same as Mitchell. I mean, we're on a
Yeah.
4-game slate. There's no pay-ups, so if we could get these guys low to reasonably owned, I think they do make sense. I don't mind getting to Laurie. Again, he's another guy you
Yeah.
could potentially use as
Hmm.
a pivot if Maxey and Zinn are out. Just have a few spots maybe you upgrade off of Laurie, or on, I don't know. You guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like him. He's sub 20% owned. So like, it's funny. The highest upside plays are all lower owned than they probably should be. Jaren Jackson as well. It's like everyone's going to want to get to what? It's
Well, just
Brunson.
the New York. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
New York
Brunson, and then
Lakers.
kind of the mid-range guys. So all these guys are lower owned than they probably should be.
Yeah.
I like Jackson. I like Tatum. I like Allen again too with Mobley. We'll talk about him
Yeah.
at center, but he's forward eligible on FanDuel still, I think.
Let's pivot. Let's pivot there. That was actually going to be my first question, center wise. So, like, his price on both sites and his ownership on both sites to me seems to be egregiously low. Obviously, on FanDuel you get a little bit more for blocks and steals. I think he should be 9K tonight with Mobley out. Given the matchup, like that's a matchup that I personally want to attack tonight. What are your kind of thoughts on him? Like, is that the correct ownership? You obviously just said you kind of like him, but what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, like I said, I think Reed's over-owned on FanDuel. So I
Yeah,
do want to get to some Allen. I do want to get to some Jackson. They definitely have a higher ceiling probably than Paul Reed. It is a good matchup for Paul Reed, but
yeah,
again, I mean, if they have Olynyk on the floor, I don't know how big they have to stay if guys like Tatum or Morris are in there. So I want to come in under on Paul Reed on FanDuel.
mhm,
I'm guessing we're going to see Jackson Hayes kind of climb up now as we continue to refresh the data. But yeah, Allen is one of my favorite ways to get different. Again, he's had massive games here with Mobley out of the lineup. Mobley's back, but not today. He's going to rest today, which definitely boosts his upside. And then John Collins is another player. Earlier in the
yeah.
season, he was overpriced for the minutes he was playing, but now he's consistently getting over 30 minutes. So if he's not going to be popular, again, I love getting a lot of these Jazz players because it allows you to kind of mix and match things with Philly because we're not going to have that news by 8 p.m. in all likelihood. Collins is another player who's probably going to be a big part of my night tonight.
And for what it's worth, I don't know if you would consider this a good matchup with Embiid out. I think I would, but like in the last two good matchups, like Charlotte and Washington, he averaged over 40 fantasy points in 32 minutes in those games. So, like, to your point, if he is getting those minutes, this could be a smash spot for him at kind of low ownership.
Agreed.
So, I think we're good on the position breakdown for the most part here. Let's go ahead and jump back into questions. We'll give a first look build as well. So, we did get a question about John Collins. That's funny. It's kind of, I'll let you rapid fire some of these here. So,
Yeah, throw him. Let's go.
so Derek White or Colin Sexton?
I'll go Sexton. Again, I like the flexibility late. A little bit concerned about the blowout potential in Boston, and there's just more mouths to feed for Boston right now. So I'll go Sexton.
Is Jackson Hayes a core play?
For me, yes. Keep an eye on the ownership. I don't think you have to get there as heavily if the field isn't, but for me, I really like him tonight. He's way low owned compared to what he should be. I'm imagining that ownership comes up. But again, he's a guy I think could play into a blowout. I don't know that they're going to rush to pull him if the game does get out of hand. He should get his normal run. So I love Jackson Hayes. He's a core play for me.
And then we got Porzingis or Hart. That is definitely an interesting question. I'm actually curious what the data says here.
Yeah, I mean it's hard if you want to play it safe.
It's hard. Yep.
If you have that 2K to upgrade or like 1,200 to upgrade, I'd be curious what type of salary you might be leaving on the table because you got to look at it like this: it's Porzingis and who versus Hart and who. Because I think Porzingis, even in a blowout, probably outscores Hart in terms of raw points, but you're paying much more for him. So I prefer Hart of the 2 point per dollar.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. Just on tonight's slate with the blowout, like
fair.
if the game stay, like again, that's why I want to stack that game because if it stays close, yeah, Porzingis should go off. But like Hart in that game against Indy should be safer, in terms of minutes, and that's still a high scoring game.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, OF index actually is Hart slightly higher.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Hart every way you look at it, I guess. Then so.
Yeah. And it's not like Hart's egregiously higher owned than Porzingis as well. So this is an interesting question for you. Wood is going to be 60% owned off the bench. So is he still a good play?
If that holds, I don't love it. He's going to be an okay play. But honestly, like full transparency, the slate doesn't lock for an hour. We're going to see these ownerships flip between him and Hayes a little bit and mellow out. If he's still 60%, very happy to come in under that number aggressively off the bench. Again, I think Hayes plays in a blowout. And yeah, I'd much rather get to Hayes if he's starting and lower owned. But it's just funny because I'm talking through this, and I'd be shocked if those ownerships don't not entirely flip, but kind of level out. So definitely just continue to refresh the model. Again, an hour until lock tonight. We do have a half hour extra.
And then so we did get news Contra and Aldama again expected to play. So then that kind of leads us into Scottie Pippen as well as a question. I'll say like not as appealing tonight. Like there are safer guard plays, and I will say like we didn't really mention this. Only 8 shot attempts, I think, last game. Like that is a concern to me. But at the same time, if he's starting, to your point, good play. But yeah, do you like him a little less knowing that Aldama and Contra are active tonight?
No, I still like him just as much because he's not popular. It's really the ownership, and I think he should be more popular. There's no other guards in that range I feel great about. Like we think Maxey plays. If he's out, Beverly's the guy you're comparing him to, and even then, I think they're going to be pretty close. Like all the guards we like are more. I mean, they're more expensive. We have a lot of wings we like that are cheap. The Lakers guys aren't that cheap, so he fills a role and like he creates a certain type of build that's going to be lower owned on a 4-game slate. So I like him a lot here. And yeah, those guys are going to cut into his usage, but it should also keep the game more competitive, create assist opportunities. So yeah, I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah. Favorite 2 Lakers and Knicks plays for FanDuel, and then we got. Let's actually save that because I kind of want to use that for the first look build just in general. We'll use it with DraftKings, but I think it'll be the same thing. And then Kelly Oubre or Buddy Hield is the next question.
I'd still go Oubre. I just think he is the higher floor.
I agree.
Hield goes off like once a month. This would be a good spot to do it, but yeah, I gotta go Oubre. I just think with Embiid out, we already know that Embiid's going to be out. He's seeing enough usage as the starter that he's way safer.
Just this one's actually funny, and then we'll get into the other question. So, is he crazy for liking Jordan Clarkson for a ceiling game? And I will say, I was doing some like Prize Picks prop stuff earlier. His fantasy score was like one of the best for the over, and I think it was at like 27.5 or something like that. I was like, I don't want to bet that. It's like, why is that a good bet? But I feel like if we get Colin Sexton not having a good game, which has happened, Clarkson is due for a better game. But what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, this one's interesting, and I'd have to dig a little bit deeper into this, but I feel like Clarkson has like sharp home road splits, and they've been on this really long road trip, and he hasn't been playing that well. But I think at home he's like a much better player, and maybe this is just me like speculating, but going through the game logs, it kind of confirms it. Like all his big games are coming in Utah. They're back in Utah tonight. He's had a lot of floor games lately, so his price is way down. I don't think it's crazy. It's definitely like a high risk type play. Like I consider him similar to Buddy Hield, and that you could get a big ceiling out of him. But yeah, low ownership, it's not crazy. And again, I think there is something to his home road splits, which is usually something we never look at in NBA. For like a guy who's a pure shooter, I mean, there could be something to that. So I'll probably spend some time digging into that over the next night or so. But yeah,
it could just be a travel thing, honestly. Like we're traveling a little bit more for away games. But so let's get back into this question. I do think it's a good kind of segue into kind of our first look build as well, because I think naturally we're going to end up on 2 Lakers, and I think naturally we're going to end up on some New York Knicks plays as well. I know this is for FanDuel, but again, like I feel like it correlates. So for that, between the Lakers and the Knicks, I guess, do you agree that those are going to be the 2 starting points tonight? And then if so, which plays do you want to go out of your way to get on?
Yeah. It's DiVincenzo. It's Hart for the Knicks. I think on both sides.
I agree. And I just like the fact that we don't have to use a guard spot on them as well. Like we can play small forward and power forward together. That's pretty huge for DraftKings. Is that the same for FanDuel? Just I thought it was, but I could be wrong.
I don't think you could use Hart. Or no, now it is. He didn't have power forward. He got it last week. So yeah, he's probably totally.
So that's pretty clutch. And then for the Lakers, so it's like we're probably playing one of the bigs. I think we kind of have to tonight in some capacity. And then I think we both agree Reeves is safer. Like Russell getting locked down a little bit tonight would be too shocking, and that's probably why the spread is that big.
Yeah. Boston, one of the best teams in the league. So
yeah.
I mean, for me, I like Reeves the best. And I still think the ownership's going to level out, but at the current ownership, it's Hayes over Wood for me. Like, I
Okay.
really just can't wrap my head around why he's triple the ownership. But again, I think this levels out by the time we get to lock. But right now, I'd have to say Russell and Reeves on both sides. Not Russell, Reeves and
Yeah.
Hayes on both sides. The chalk is going to be Russell and Reeves. Those will be the two highest owned. But for me, I'm going to have Russell, but at his price, I'm comfortable getting a little bit under the field. I'm not comfortable going too low on Reeves. I'm going to have Reeves and Hayes as my top two. I
Yeah.
don't know if you agree, but I'm still shocked
Um,
by this ownership. I can't imagine it stays here.
Honestly, if I'm fading Wood for me, I probably want to get to actually more Vanderbilt and Hachimura. Like, I already feel like those are good plays, but like Hachi, I probably want to get to the most in terms of the bigs, given the pricing. And then, like, if we're just flat out fading Wood, I would actually probably just want to get to Vanderbilt. But it feels like a toss up regardless. Like, that's just a slight personal preference.
Yeah.
But like for the lineup, do you want to go Hachi as well? And then we have a
Yeah,
ton
we
of
could go
talent left.
Hachimura. Yeah, I really
Okay.
do like him.
But then yeah, from here it's like okay, now we have to pay up somewhere like Maxi, and we'd have to play two Maxi and Harris together. I don't know.
I mean, or we could go with Brunson or Mitchell. I like both of them a lot.
Yeah, but like Maxi's a like he should go for 50 plus tonight against Utah with Embiid out, assuming that he's good to go. You know, like that's again, I guess Mitchell and Brunson they're the exact same thing, but
yeah, I mean, they're kind of the same play at lower
yeah,
ownership
yeah,
without having to worry about the
you're right,
news.
you're right.
So any of the three.
I'll go Brunson. I'll go
But yeah, if
Brunson.
you do go with Maxi, put him in your utility spot just in
Yeah.
case.
I went with Brunson for the first look, just simpler for us to give that out.
Yeah.
Then 7.3 left over. We got Russell. We could play guard wise. Drew Holiday to get a little bit unique.
I mean, we could go both. We already have. We could
Pippen,
also go Maxi. I think.
right? I know. Wait, let's actually try it with Maxi and then see what happens.
Yeah, and then if
3.9.
Maxi's out, just pivot to Laurie at
Yeah.
utility. If you could put Maxi at the utility, I think.
Yeah. You're right. That's actually a good call because marketing. I
Yeah,
mean,
he's 500 cheaper on DK.
yeah, I like that. God, it's just this.
Yeah, you're gonna put a placeholder in there, I guess. Or...
No, it's just I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah. We're good.
3.9. Grimes is out.
There's gotta be something.
I mean, McBride, Fournier, and then, but like, that's a lot of salary being left over on the board there. Pritchard, probably.
Or Torian Prince.
Yeah. It's kind of, should we just go Harris? Like, a little bit.
Yeah, just go Harris. That's fine. And if you could play something from that game, you could create a 2-for-2 maybe.
But I think we could. Like, we'll have Clarkson as the. Clarkson. We go with the chat. Let's do it.
Hot take, chat. This is for you.
Yes, there you go.
Never call that out. Hopefully it works.
He's our lone play there for sure. That's not terrible though.
I like it. And then again, if you want to pivot, you get word that I don't know, Maxi's in. You can see what that would change to. But yeah, it gives you options, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. So we'll do one last refresh here. See if we have any questions, and then we'll begin out of here. Again, it does start a little bit later, so lucky you guys we were able to go a little bit later, so we weren't eating into the Discord chat a little bit too much than normal. Right. Let's see here. Maxi is playing. Garland or that's Unicorn Love said that. So.
Oh, is Maxi playing?
He's sorry.
Yeah. He should be, but we don't know yet.
Mm-hmm. Garland or Holiday?
Ooh, that's tough.
I like Holiday tonight.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a better matchup. Mm-hmm. Garland only played 20 minutes last game too. Yeah. He's another guy who's kind of ramping up, so it's Holiday.
Yeah. Yeah. Maxi in the utility spot. Yes. No Allen or KP tonight. I think Jared Allen's a solid play tonight. That's a play we could have got to here instead of the Lakers value. But that's what it is. You're fading the Lakers value then. Yeah,
we talked about it earlier. We both love Allen. KP's okay, but he's very risky because he is sharing usage, and that game could blow out. But Allen looks awesome here. No Mobley. Definitely helps his upside. Looks good at 8K, and then around a similar price on FanDuel, I think. But you could also play him at forward on FanDuel, so don't mind paying a little bit more for him there.
And then last question here. So Tobias Harris, he's slightly worried about Tobias Harris tonight.
I mean, if Maxi's back at his price, it's a little shaky, but don't worry about Laurie. I mean, it's rare in the NBA there's one guy on one guy the whole game. I mean, Harris is a guy who's going to come off screens. He does kind of everything. If Maxi's out, he's one of the best plays on the slate, honestly. And again, in today's NBA, it's kind of positionless basketball. I wouldn't look too deeply into one-on-one matchups. So don't worry about it. And again, this is one of the higher total games on the slate. I think the one fear is going to be if Maxi's back, how much of that usage does he take? But we have seen with Embiid out, he's seeing a nice boost as well. So I already like him. I just like him more if Maxi's out. But don't look too deeply into one-on-one matchups. There's a few examples, like certain Dort matchups. Drew is taking a step back, but he's a guy who at times is tough for guys. But Laurie doesn't really fall into that category for me. As good of a defender as he is, just play your Maxi. You're probably gonna be fine.
And for what's worth, if you are
Harris, sorry.
Yeah, if you are worried about Maxi being active, you could always swap down from Harris to Collins, and then probably bump up from Clarkson for that example to maybe Sexton or another play there. So it's just a way to get unique. I'm not worried about it. I actually think having Maxi there helps the games. I don't think Utah's going to blow them out, but like we don't have to worry about the potential of probably Philly not showing up as much with Maxi there. So like Harris should be safer, I guess is the best way to describe it. But ending a day to refresh here, and then we're getting out of here. Appreciate all the support. Again, being in here at the same time tomorrow, looking at ownership. Chalk has maybe come down a little bit in some spots, but all the same plays are still chalky on both sites. So with that, what are your closing thoughts for tonight?
Yeah, definitely keep an eye on ownership. We had someone ask Wood or Hayes. I mean, I prefer Hayes right now as the lower owned play and starting. He's very likely to play into a blowout. Wood could as well. There was a world where they could have started them next to each other. I guess they're not going to do that here. But for me, it's Hayes. But they're both good plays. But keep an eye on ownership. Someone brought up Fournier, who we talked a lot about. I think he's fine as a dart. But yeah, last word, just make sure you have a plan in place for that Maxi news if you are playing much of that late game. Again, 2-hour break. Is definitely a long time, so it's very likely we don't have that news. So again, just make sure you can pivot if you need to. Keep an eye on news. I mean, last night some of you and Shaq got burnt by the DeAndre Jordan thing. I mean, get in our Discord. It's very cheap. And also, I mean, not to plug anywhere else, but just on Twitter, the Underdog Twitter updates news. Like, just make sure you have an eye on that. But yeah, we'll always talk through the news as it breaks, what you should do, and the model updates in real time as this stuff changes. So, just keep an eye on things. Even a 4-game slate, things could change quickly. But yeah, bigger slate tomorrow, I imagine.
Even more so on a 4-game slate, to be honest with you, because that one piece of news could really change the whole slate. But
absolutely.
That'll do it for today's stream here, guys. Appreciate you guys being here again. Yeah, jump in the Discord chat. That'll be starting in about 15 minutes here. We got that right today, finally, the correct time with the later start time. But yeah, link to that's in the description. Again, we're going to be streaming again at the same time tomorrow as we typically do. So being here tomorrow. Appreciate you guys being here.
Take care, everyone.